In a stunning victory for the GOP, women are now no longer allowed to vote. Celebrations erupt across the country as men, conservatives, and yes, even conservative women are celebrating the passage of the SAVE Act, which explicitly bans women from voting. It just literally says the 19th Amendment is gone. Women aren't allowed to vote. Thank you and have a nice day. In agreement, Democrats came out and said, well, women are just plumb too stupid to figure out how to get IDs. And this means 69 million women across the country are no longer eligible to vote, which, if it were true, would disproportionately affect conservative women. But the argument is actually pretty stupid. And now I'll tell you what's actually going on. In fact, my friends, this is the SAVE Act, which passed the House, which requires an ID to register to vote and or to vote. It's not and or, it's actually literally and. And I will add most Americans, including Democrat voters, are completely in favor of this. Now, in the weirdest turn, Democrats are acting like this means women don't get to vote, which is not true. Because the joke is, I already told you I love the SAVE Act. You don't need to sell me on it, as the Spider-Man meme goes. Democrats are putting out these messages saying now women will be disproportionately affected because when they get married and change their name, now their name doesn't match their IDs or documents. And this means they're not going to be able to vote. I got to be honest, guys. If the Republicans actually were able to sneak through a ban on women voting, I'd be substantially more impressed with the Republican Party. But they're not capable of doing anything like that. And the bill doesn't actually do this. I got a question for you guys. And I'd like to hear your comments. And I think I already know what you're going to say. Why are Democrats trying to block voter ID when everybody, including Democrat voters, are in favor of it? I think the answer is pretty obvious to most people. It is what it is. Yeah, I guess most people presume that Democrats are trying to cheat. They want people to be able to vote without needing IDs. But there's actually a really simple reason. And I know Republicans are saying things like they're going to have illegal immigrants vote. Not really. No, I still don't think so. This is a red herring. Illegal immigrants don't need to vote because they're counted in the census, which means it's better if they don't vote because they will count towards congressional apportionment, giving Democrat sanctuary states and cities more congressional seats. But by not being able to vote, it entrenches Democrat power, meaning they don't need to win as many votes. They're going to get the congressional seat based off of 500K people instead of 775K people. And then they only need to actually secure maybe 100,000 votes of that 500,000 to actually win. But then you might be saying, but Tim, why do they want voter ID? Universal mail-in voting. It means no more ballot harvesting. If you need an ID to vote, you can't just get a universal mail-in ballot, which means ballot harvesters who go door to door and collect ballots from people who probably are largely American citizens. Sometimes they're not. It happens. It means they're not going to be able to do it. It means these individuals are going to have to present their ID. So the interesting thing is neither Democrats or Republicans are actually talking about the core issues that this bill will create because they think you're all stupid. And what can I say? Some of you are. I'm sorry, but it's true. Most of you are, right? You're watching Timcast, right? That means you're smart, at least smarter than the average person. And I sincerely mean that. At least better informed. Maybe you're not good at math. The point is, Republicans know voter ID is going to curtail universal mail-in voting. It's a backdoor way of stopping what is largely unconstitutional anyway, at least in my opinion, and the ballot harvesting practice, which is insane and shouldn't be allowed. But this way they can address it without actually addressing it. And Democrats know this means no more door-to-door nursing home ballot collectors. Well, let's jump into this. And I want to talk to you about why women aren't allowed to vote anymore. It's a lie. Before we do, my friends, check out castbrew.com. Dr. Alex Stein's Big Booty Latina Love Potion is now available for pre-order. It'll begin shipping on it's actually up. It's up early. Let's go. Dr. Alex Stein's Big Booty Latina Love Potion. Alex Stein is not a doctor. It's guaranteed to spice things up in the bedroom. It is not guaranteed to spice things up in the bedroom. This is a medium roast launching just in time for Valentine's Day. It's our largely joke, Alex Stein comedic brew. It's a great coffee. Don't get me wrong. It's delicious. But I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. It's largely just a joke bag. We just thought it would be funny. We were sitting downstairs. I was laughing my ass off at the idea of Alex Stein helping people, spice things up. Because he's not, So grab the coffee. It is good coffee. It is really great coffee. Grab it at castbrew.com. Let's do this. Well, let me show you a little bit of the SAVE Act first. The New York Times says House passes strict voter ID bill amplifying Trump's claims of fraud. The measure had no path forward in the Senate, where Democrats are all but certain to block it, and Republicans have said they will not try to skirt filibuster rules to ram it through. So the presumption is it's not going to make it through the Senate. Now, why then did they pass this bill? Well, I'm letting you in another secret, because the passage of this bill also included a rule that they could bring forth a spending bill without 24 hours notice. So that means today is Thursday. Don't be surprised if today or tomorrow they propose a temporary budget or a full budget abruptly, without notice, and they all just vote yes on it. You see, the reason I think they did this with the SAVE Act is because they know that most people support it. Republicans will get behind it. Democrats will pretend to oppose it. It will pass. And what it's actually doing is allowing them to pass a budget that destroys the U.S. economy. See, nobody wants to cut costs because everyone's going to bitch about it. And so they just keep deficit spending. I mean, listen. They come forward and they say, all right, who wants to lose money? And everyone says, not me, make him lose money. Oh, I'm not going to lose money, you lose money. And then they'll go, how about we just keep deficit spending until the whole thing goes belly up? That seems to be what's actually going on, because this ain't passing the Senate. They said the bill fast-tracked through the House just days after Trump called to nationalize voting to combat what he claimed was rampant voter fraud, blah, blah, blah. It had no chance of passage in the Senate, where one Republican has already expressed major concerns. He said he will not lower the 60-vote filibuster threshold to try to ram it through the chamber on a simple majority vote over Democratic opposition. Still, it gave Republicans an opportunity to trumpet Mr. Trump's charges that Democrats are trying to mobilize masses of undocumented voters to sway elections in their favor, blah, blah. You get it. Here's my favorite thing. Considering the SAVE Act largely is a dud DOA in the Senate, I just don't understand what's the point of a video like this from Representative Lauren Underwood. She represents the good old Illinois' 14th. Oh, I love Illinois 14. I think this is my favorite one. Let me make sure. I could be wrong. Is this my favorite one? No, it's not. It's not. Sorry. Okay. It's not. Let me show you why. Illinois, Congressional map. No, 14 is whatever. No, it's 13. It's 13. 13 is the best. Do you guys know about Illinois' 13th district? Take a look at this one. It is a fake district that slices right through the 15th district for the purpose of creating a Democrat congressional seat. It is completely illegitimate. If they were to actually just take this section of Illinois, it'd be conservative. But you see, what they did was they created this beautiful little strip that connects East St. Louis all the way up to Champaign, and including Springfield, so that liberals get a majority in this fake district. Man, our government is so cooked. Anyway, here's the video from her.
Republicans are trying to make it harder for you to vote. Let me tell you how. The Save America Act would require your passport or your birth certificate to match your current name in order to be able to vote. If y'all got married and changed your name, your birth certificate would not match your current name. Nearly 69 million women in America have a birth certificate that does not match their current name, and therefore 69 million American women would no longer be eligible to vote. These guys say that the Save America Act is needed to prevent undocumented immigrants from voting, but y'all already know that that is not a thing. What this really is, it's a voter suppression bill to keep lawfully voting American citizens from being able to exercise their foundational right to vote. I'm obviously voting no, but I just want you guys to know that this is serious and it's happening right now.
I am, black-pilled, because Matt Walsh, I think it was Matt Walsh's tweet, he said something like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to pull it up. Matt, I'm going to pull it up because I just want to be sexist for a little bit. I'm allowed to be, that was always okay. I'm kidding. But he does have this very funny post, and I'm going to shout out his tweet where he said, "It's hard to believe Hard to believe now, but for most of American history, Congress was filled with high IQ men who were extremely articulate and took the job seriously. And it's in response to this.
Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once. When he was
weak sauce.
And also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
is
Julie. I just want to be clear.
Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are you serious? Talking about anti-Semitism to a woman who lost her grandfather in the Holocaust? Really?
The committee will be in order.
Talk to Jared Wise about anti-Semitism.
Oh my God.
Ranking member knows that.
I'm not on either. Bondi screaming anti-Semitism, and then I forgot this lady's name. It's Balint. What's her first name? I sometimes forget my congressional Becca Balint, and she's Vermont's at large. I'm very black-pilled. Shout out Matt Walsh. What a funny thing to say. We don't have serious people in this country anymore. It's all just lies, manipulations, emotion, and dare I say, retardation. And man, but you know what? I can't say this. At least some people are saying the quiet part out loud. The first thing I want to give a shout out to is Matt Walsh again. Matt, I'm reading your tweets because I saw one, this tweet that he had, and then I had to pull up the other one that I thought was funny. But this is the one he said, conservatives generally defend voter ID laws by insisting that all voters will be able to figure out how to get a valid ID, so the law won't disenfranchise anyone. But the truth is that a certain small percentage of voters actually won't be able to figure it out, which means that a certain percentage will be de facto disenfranchised. And that is all the more reason to put these laws into place. If you're so dumb, befuddled, and incompetent that you can't manage to perform such a basic task, then you are not qualified to vote. You don't deserve to have any say over the direction of the country. Stay home and let competent adults handle it. Agreed. Yeah, I love that famous Ami Horowitz video where he goes to Berkeley. You guys know what I'm talking about. And he asks these young college students, is voter ID racist? And they're like, yeah, because black people don't know how to get IDs and they don't have the internet. So he goes to Harlem and he walks up to a black guy and he's just like, do you have an ID? And the guy's like, what? And he's like, I know it's a weird question. He goes, yeah, I have an ID. And he's like, okay, was it hard to get? And he's like, oh, no. It's like, okay, he goes to a black lady and he's like, do you have an ID? And she's like, excuse me? And he's like, I know it's weird. She's like, yes. And he's like, okay, was it hard? And she's like, no. He asked this young black guy, do you have the internet? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, was it hard for you to get? And he was like, what? Nah, even little kids get the internet. What do you mean? like they're not stupid. It's so. And then my absolute favorite is when he goes to this old black guy and he's like, do you know where the DMV is? And he goes, yeah, it's up on 25th. You're going to make. He thought he was asking for directions. Because these liberals are like, they don't know where the DMV is. They can't find it. Oh, they're so stupid. I love how the Democrat argument is that women and black people are just too dumb to vote. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just going to agree with Democrats, but just go the other direction. Like, okay, Democrats, you know what? Actually, you made an interesting point. Women and black people, according to Democrats, they're just not smart enough to vote. Okay? I guess I just agree. Thanks, Democrats, for your position on this. Well, the conversation is saying the quiet part out loud, which, for those that are not familiar, is actually a Simpsons reference. Simpsons have just defined our culture, I guess. The conversation published this today. Citizenship voting requirement in Save America Act has no basis in the Constitution and ignores precedent that only states decide who gets to vote. What? Just saying it outright. They're outright just saying that illegal immigrants and non-citizens should be allowed to vote. Well, the Constitution doesn't say that only citizens can vote. Why am I going to let some dude in Russia vote in my election? Is that a joke? We just spent a decade where you guys were screaming so much about Russia. You're accusing me of working for Russia, and I'm just some moron who complains on the internet for a living. I don't work for Russia. They made that up. But that's because they're unscrupulous. Now, all of a sudden, you're like, actually, maybe they should be allowed to vote. Next, they're going to say we should do mail-in votes around the world because we love everybody. And then the funny thing is that Israel gets to vote on who's our president. Have you thought about that? Leftists? Huh? You don't like Israel, right? The Republican-led House of Representatives voted February 11, 2026 to approve the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. This marks the third year in a row the House has passed similar legislation. Yeah, it never goes anywhere. It would require anyone registering to vote to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship in person, such as a passport or birth certificate. The new version goes further than its predecessor by requiring many individuals voting in federal elections to present photo identification at the polls, indicating proof of citizenship. Voting rights experts and advocacy organizations have detailed how it could suppress voting, blah, 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 blah. As a legal scholar who studies, among other things, foreign interference in elections, I find considerations about the potential effects of the SAFE Act important, especially given how rare it is that a non-citizen actually votes. Blah, blah, blah. They say, blah, blah, blah. The Constitution says little about voting rights. Indeed, it's true. The U.S. Constitution imposes no citizenship requirement when it comes to voting. The original text of the Constitution, in fact, said very little about the right to vote. It was not until legislators passed subsequent amendments, starting after the Civil War up to the 1970s, the Constitution even explicitly prohibited voting laws that discriminate on account of race, sex, or age. Aside from these amendments, the Constitution is largely silent about who gets to vote. Who then gets to decide whether someone is qualified to vote? No matter the election, the answer is always the same, the states. Indeed, by constitutional design, the states are tasked with setting voter eligibility requirements. When it comes to presidential elections, for instance, as I've previously written, exclusive power under the Constitution electors clause to decide, you know what, I can't stand these people and I'm ready to just, okay, King, you know what, Emperor Trump, I'm over it. They're making the argument that the states decide. Well, for those that haven't been paying attention, because maybe you weren't apprised to the news or the goings-on, in the 2020 election, the Democrats argued that actually, it was not the state legislatures as per the Constitution. They would ignore that, despite the fact that the Constitution actually says it. This is why I don't like liberals. Now, don't get me wrong, Republicans suck too, but not as much, but still kind of, you know what I mean? The Constitution says state legislatures will decide how an election is run. Well, the Democrats decided unilaterally through executive authority that they would change the structures of their elections. Texas sued Pennsylvania over this, saying it is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court, being largely made up of cowards, refused to take up the case. Only Alito and Thomas decided they would actually hear it. But the rest of the Supreme Court is a bunch of terrified little whiny babies. And, you know, they were like, please don't make me be responsible for doing something. You know, I love Star Trek. Last night I was watching The Measure of a Man, one of the greatest episodes of television from 1989. Talk about a long time ago. And in it, there is a JAG officer who has to determine in a hearing whether or not an android, Data, is a sentient human being or just a machine. I recommend it. But what I love about it was that Picard says in his final argument, you wanted to make law, here's your chance. That this JAG officer, generally speaking, like these adjudicators, want to make a statement to tell the future something. It was so amazing. What a great show. She says, I am tasked with speaking to the future about what this means. And the show isn't really material. The point I'm bringing up is that judges and adjudicators are tasked specifically with telling the future what is, what we think. And sometimes we're wrong, and that's okay. And 7 justices sat there saying we are too cowardly to tell the future what we believed at this point. That being said, I'm not surprised to find that liberals are going to absolutely be like, oh, you know how we said it didn't matter what the Constitution was saying? Now it does. Because the truth is, raw exercise of power was always going to be what made the determination. And we, as strong American traditionalists in this country, we exercised power. And then we largely fell into this liberal mindset. I've been a liberal most of my life. And I mean liberal in the political, philosophical sense, not the tribal sense. The problem with conservatives is that they're actually liberals. And let me clarify. There are several ways we define the phrase conservative and liberal. Typically, most people use it to define a tribe, red or blue. But in the political sense, classical liberal conservatives indeed are. This means they are unwilling to assert their authorities. So a question was asked of me the other day by Jack Posobiec. He said that if someone is on HRT, should they be allowed to have guns? And I said no. Because we determine through due process when someone is allowed to have guns. The libertarians come out and say, if you create a mental, and I've argued this too, but my views have shifted, and I'll tell you why. If you argue that there is a mental health requirement for guns, then they will create a mental health argument to take your guns. And my response to that is, indeed, you are correct. But as we've learned, despotic individuals will always make up any reason to take away your rights. Whether or not we decide as those with power in this country to take an action does not change the fact that liberals in the political, in the tribal sense, the left, communists, will just lie to steal power. The point being, might makes. It doesn't make right. You know, it's funny because when I try and explain to people might makes, they go, oh, you think might makes right? No, that's a moralist determination. But might certainly makes. I'll tell you this. Tell me the story of the great and noble rabbit. Sorry, you can't. He's being carried away in the jaws of the wolf. By all means, you can praise the rabbit for its honor, nobility, and willingness to avoid conflict, and it's dead. And the wolf said, yeah, your stories are great. Thank you and have a nice day. Predators, they win. And we have seen from the left in this country predatory behavior. They will assert one thing and then change their minds to make it sound like they're legitimate. Why? They're exploiting classical liberalism to steal power and subjugate you. If you haven't figured that one out yet, well, best of luck to you. In all seriousness, women are not going to be banned from voting, although many conservatives probably would be happy with it. The SAVE Act is likely not going to pass the Senate because it's one big con. Smash the like button, my friends. Share the show with every person you've met in your life. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next segment.